I'm actually honored to be in your presence because you've been a pioneer in many ways, especially in the area of using VFX, using virtual production, and using mocap in so many of your films that you've been doing. So it all began when you were an engineer. You began as an engineer. And then you went off to the States, and then you worked there, and then you came back, and then you suddenly got into television. You did a dot-com venture which didn't do very well, and then you got into making television. Tell us a bit about that journey.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you, Anil, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, like you said, basically, like I think most kids in Andhra, we do engineering first. So I did engineering. We do either engineering or medicine. So I did engineering, then went to US, did my master's. Then I was worked in LA, but I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, do something on my own. And then I came back to India. So I did a couple of businesses, like you said, which didn't pan out the way we wanted. So that was in late 90s, early 2000s. And basically two back-to-back failures, startup failures, or which I didn't fit in. So we were looking at the next, I was looking at the next opportunity, what to do. And the television was just about picking up at the time. Balaji telefilms, the television serials, they were picking up. There was a lot of euphoria around the television content at the time. This was in 2001. Me and then I partnered with my present partner, the Prasad. We had, from my wife's side, we had they were from the film industry for over 3 generations. So that gave us a little insight into the television industry, and so we adapted to that and said, let's start with the television show. And like we're talking, Mr. Bapnid Garu from ETV gave us our first opportunity to produce a television show, and that started our journey into television 25 years ago. So 25 years to date, yeah.
Yeah, and you made how many, about 25, 30 television shows?
I think so. We lost count. Like some of them ran into thousands of episodes and stuff like that, yeah. Across multiple languages, Telugu, Kannada, Oriya, then we did a little bit of Marathi and Gujarati, Bengali as well, yeah.
And then when did you get the courage to take the leap into cinema?
Yeah, so the reason we started with television was that was something we felt safe. We're coming from 2 failures, we didn't have much appetite for risk. And then subsequently after, so from 2001 to 2008, almost 7 years, we were doing pretty much television. But on the side, parallelly, I was also working as a line producer for my father-in-law's productions. So I did, we did Morning Raga with Shabana Azmi and Mahesh Dattani's film, where I was a line producer, executive producer. Then we did a couple of Telugu films as a thing where I kind of learned the hard things about film production and everything, associate the good and bad of film. And many of those films from Morning Raga were very tough to break out into the market, to find a market, find audience. We learned the hard way. And then in 2008, I knew Rajamouli for a very long time, since late 90s and 99. He was working with my father-in-law again. And we had been good friends. And that's when, like you said, we built up an appetite and said, let's do a film. And then I had the fortune to be with knowing Rajamouli. I went to Rajamouli and said, I know, I trust you. We have a good relationship. Would love to do a small film with you. So after Magadira, he was wanting to do a small film. And that's how our journey into film started with Maryada Ramanna. And around the same time, we had another friend, Krish, who pitched a concept to us called Vedam with Allu Arjun, Pushpa fame. And we did that film. So those two were successful. And that's a journey into films. Yeah.
And that encouraged you to do a lot more.
Yeah, then we didn't do a lot more. We were pretty controlled and reserved about how much we do. And then we did another film called Panja with Pawan Kalyan. That didn't do too well. But following Maryada Ramanna, we wanted to work together. Me and Rajamouli really shared a good rapport. We understood each other. We knew we liked our collaboration. So we said we want to do something big, and he wanted to do something big. I said, we are ready for something big, and that's how what is now Bahubali happened in 2012.
And how did that project come about? You all decided to do it because it was a big project.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
What, 400 crores or more than that?
Yeah, we spent at the end of the day, I think both films together, we spent 450. Yeah.
Yeah. So getting the funds together and all of that, getting investors, getting.
So the challenge was in the first part, not the second part, obviously. So we had, there are two things. One is, over the years, like I said, we started in 2001, and the Bahubali, by the time we started, around 2011 is when we started. And we had built a reputation for our company and our banner, which was that we were trustworthy, we were professional, we were process driven. There was a certain systems in place, and Rajmouli was there. And so the combination, and Rajmouli also had, of course, had a string of successes. And so the combination of us and Rajmouli, weighted towards Rajmouli, there was a lot of trust in the project, although it was much more than, the budget was much more than what was at the market feasible at that time. But that one was the trust, belief in Rajmouli, trust in us. And that was what got the initial money into the thing. So we never went to any studio. It was all funded by us through a combination of Ramoji Film City, again ETV, where we worked with them for more than 10 years then. So they kind of backed us in terms of debt, and also in terms of supporting us with credit in terms of any of the infrastructure facilities that we used there. So we did a lot of work. Most of the work was done in Ramoji Film City. So set construction, hotels, everything else which was non-cash driven was again given as a credit towards the end. So, and then we also did a lot of private finance that we raised, debt at a private finance. So it was, but only everything was debt financed. There's no studio or equity, and we did the whole thing together. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's a great revelation for me, at least, that you use debt finance to get Bahubali off the ground. Part 1 got done, part 2 gets done. By then, part 1 is a success, huge success. You recover, what, 3 times the money?
Yeah, end of part 2 we did very well, yeah.
So, part 2 was also a success. Then begins your journey towards animation. Right. Why animation? What interested you in animation?
So, just take a step back. When we were doing Bahubali, even when we were doing Bahubali 1, in the very beginning, the way it was, way we saw the film, and one of the reasons we bet on Bahubali, even though it was much beyond the things, was the characters and the worlds of Bahubali. And the characters had a lot of depth, a lot of backstory, and so we worked with a studio called Firefly Design, Sanath and Funny from Hyderabad. They had this novel concept at the time, which is, they said, let's do a world of production design Bible. So they came and they spoke with, like interviews with Rajamouli and the writers, Vijayendra Prasad Garu and everybody else, and kind of created an entire backstory for the entire universe. So who are these characters? What are their backstories? Who are these worlds? Why is Mahishmati the way it is? Why is it wealthy? What is the economy of the time at that time? What were they growing? What were they living? What were the social structures? So there was a lot of thought put into designing these like they really existed. And we call this the design guide that we did. And this was the basis for what the films as well, like in the production design, in the art, in the colors that we used, in the way Sabu Cyril designed the Mahishmati kingdoms. Everything went back to this. This was the holding thing that made it look a certain way and a certain consistency. And when we were doing that, we also parallelly realized that there are a lot of these stories that are coming out that can pan out into on their own. So for us, then at the same time, that's when I got introduced to the world of transmedia and understood the concept of transmedia. I was in Cannes and some festivals traveling to promote this, market this film, sell this film, find buyers and stuff. And then that's when I heard of this whole thing of transmedia and how the world is at the center. And then we have films, we can do comics, we can do animation, games, etc. That was a novel concept that in 2012, for me, I was first introduced. So then we came back and I was like, told Rajmouli very excitedly, you know what, we're doing all this and maybe this is the way to look at it. And Rajmouli also got excited. And so, but we said, let's not do anything till the first film is over. We don't have the bandwidth, we don't know what's happening. So we waited for the first film, we did the first film, it was a success. And then post that, that's when the second film, we tried to mount a lot more. So we did later a game trilogy, the book trilogy, then we did a VR experience, and then when post the success, we did an animated series with on Amazon Prime with a very small budgets, but we did that, was successful. We did about 6 seasons of that. And then more recently, we also did 2 seasons with Geo Hotstar, on Hotstar, not Geo Hotstar, Hotstar at the time. So we saw some success, and we also saw some failures in some like the series that we were supposed to do with Netflix never took off. So there were some things, but our belief was that there is a lot of stories to be told from this world, and we should do what we can to make sure this world sustains, because we really, not for anything else, not for commercial reasons, but there is a lot of storytelling to be told. And so in that effort, coming long answer to your question, but
It's not a long answer, it's a very interesting answer.
Thank you.
Continue, please, don't stop.
yeah. So that's when we said, what else can we do? And one of my really ambition was, how do we take this global, and not just India but global, and how do we do something that is an animation that appeals to a larger audience, not just kids. And that's when I met Ishan Shukla. He's done amazing animation filmmaker.
He used to work with 88 Pictures.
88 Pictures. He did the Bandits of Golak
Yeah.
on Visions, Star Wars Visions, and he did his own indie animation film called Shrikova in Lies We Trust.
Yeah.
That's what I saw, and then I saw the trailer of that, and then I said, I spoke to Ishan. I invited him to Hyderabad. We chatted and said, so we have this world, we have this whole vision and this ambition to do something in animation, and I want to explore this possibility with you. I like the work you did. And that's when Ishan came back a couple of weeks later and gave us this whole idea of afterlife of Bahubali and how we can do this. And then we also, our thing was, how do we do something stylized, something like Spider-Verse, and arcane kind of a texture that's unique, that's very Indian, but also can be a global in nature. And that's when he came up with this beautiful concept that Rajmouli loved, I loved. And that's how we put it in development. And the reason we felt this is suited for animation is because it goes into afterlife, it goes into Swarga, Naraka, Patala, and at the same time Bhuloka story happening. So it's a multiverse of sorts. And it also pushes, push the thing on action. We can do a lot of action that is not possible in live action. And just the world itself, we felt, is better suited to animation, one. And the second was, animation we feel will travel more easily internationally than live action in terms of foreign audience and non-Indian diaspora audience. So these were the reasons we kind of...
And you've tested the animation, the animatics, as well as the characters. Have you tested them with focus groups and got feedback?
No. So we took the punt. We went right into doing the look of the picture. And we released the look of the picture last year in November, which you saw right now.
Sure.
That's a teaser and look of the picture and concept for the whole thing. And so it was a punt we took and we put it out there. But luckily, and this thing, people loved the concept. So that is our proof of concept. That's been our focus group. That people loved it, and so we're now very...
So it's going to continue in that manner. There's going to be any corrective action going forward?
We loved everything. People loved it. We love it. So we're just following this and just trying to see if we can take it a notch more up. But that's the same direction. Yeah.
So how far have you proceeded in this now?
At this stage, obviously, the 2D animatic storyboarding is almost done. Even the second cut of it is going to get done. Parallelly, we have started asset build that is happening. Of course, previous assets have been completed, and previous is going to start anytime soon. And and as the previous is completed, the short production will start. So we are in that phase of the phase now, right now.
And this is being supervised by a core team within your company and being given to different studios.
Yeah. So Ishan, and then we have Mihira Visual Labs, which is we founded, me and Rajmouli, that is for both VFX and animation. So there we are building up pipelines and workflows that, and we have a core team that sits there, and Ishan sits with us in Hyderabad. And then for visual development, look of the picture, and storyboarding and previous, we're using French studios, Alkide and Les Androids. We have a lot of experience in this zone. And a short production is being done in 88 Pictures in
and you're using Unreal Engine for the previs, or?
No, this is all hand-drawn.
Hand-drawn.
Hand-drawn meaning on computer, but handmade animation. Yeah, it's completely hand animated.
Wow.
Yeah.
So currently, we are at about what, 6 minutes, or 4 minutes, or 3 minutes?
No, in terms of actual thing, no, it's because it's so, like I said, because we haven't actually started short production. We're
just the teaser.
Yes, the teaser for the final. We're actually doing one more look of the picture. That'll another a minute or so that will be ready. actual shots have not started.
So when do they start?
So they'll start, I think, pretty much in the next 2 months, we should start production.
So the new teaser which you're making is for Annecy?
Yeah, we'll have one for the Annecy, which also, because we're working with 88 and we're setting the workflows, so it's both to test the workflows here and also for Annecy, yeah.
Fantastic. In terms of storytelling, India has had this weak point. We've been weak in storytelling.
Right.
So how are you ensuring that the storytelling appeals to the global audiences?
Right. So, good question. So what we did was the story, like I said, Ishan wrote the concept, and then my colleague and our creative head, Soumya Sharma and Ishan wrote the entire story. And we had a mythology consultant called Vinay Varnasi, young guy, but very well versed in Indian mythology. So he was our mythology consultant to make sure that the worlds, rules, and everything are consistent. And then we roped in Scott Moss here from LA, who's the director of Grinch, famous for Grinch, the animation. Dr. Seuss's film, he directed that. And is very experienced in animation, writing for animation and screenplay. So we roped in him to write the screenplay for the thing. So he is writing the screenplay. So that's that we wanted an experienced hand to do that. So that's why he's there.
And if I remember rightly, you're going to be doing it in English, Tamil, and Hindi.
Yeah, and Telugu.
Telugu.
Yeah, Telugu starts with Telugu, and then we're doing every other language. Yeah.
So the gentleman from LA is working. Scott is working with.
Yeah, Scott is working with Soumya and the team, and also with the storyboard team in France, and sharpening the edit and everything else, writing in it.
So it's an ambitious project.
It's we're working with multiple studios, multiple partners globally, and trying to.
And how do you stitch it together?
So that all comes together at Mihira in Hyderabad. So we have a team that pulls everything together, but we also have a production team. Yeah, it's a combination of teamwork. It's a lot of teamwork. Yeah.
And is it easy, or is there some struggles you're facing?
Well, there's definitely nothing without struggle. Definitely there's struggles in the sense, they're good struggles in the sense, we have a great team, so that's a great positive. And it's like, so they're very ambitious. So how do we do something ambitious, but at the same time, how do we make sure that doesn't go overboard in terms of cost and time? I think that's the struggle and the dilemma that we're working with. But I think it's going in a good shape.
And do you expect, what's going on in this world currently, especially with the geopolitical instabilities? Right. Do you expect that to impact the film in some way or the other when you're ready with it? Or do you expect things to ease out?
I don't know. It's a very tough
question.
Very tough question. I hope not. But on the positive side, the animation globally is really the young generation, the younger audience is taking to animation. International animation is doing extremely well globally, acceptable, very acceptable, and the acceptance levels for is much higher now. So I'm hoping that will play out better for us. Yeah.
Yeah. My concern is that the story, while you're getting in a lot of people to tell the story, the promotional and advertising budgets are immense if you want to work globally.
Absolutely.
So how are you going to ensure that you you get the message across to different audiences world over?
I think that is the single biggest challenge that we have in terms of crossing over to a non-Indian diaspora audience. But luckily, or the things that we have in our control, or which are going to help us, is one is the success of Rajamouli's films, RRR, Bahubali, followed by RRR globally, and the Oscar win. So it has given kind of a little more visibility for our content through that. And then Varanasi is coming out in April next year, Rajamouli's next film. So we are, honestly, I'm just being very frank, we're trying to, and we're doing a lot of work to make sure Varanasi crosses over. And then we're following that with Eternal War. So it's a step-by-step approach of slightly penetrating the global audience. And there is no one way. We're figuring it out. We are going to, like the Annecies of the world, we're going to the international Comic-Cons, and not just Comic-Cons, but wherever the fandoms exist. And then we're also doing kind of a research on what are the aligning fandoms, who will be what are the easy way, or what are the ways to get to access to these fandoms. So that's one. And then of course, how do we, PR and all that happens, but Also trying to find the right distributors who have handled this kind of films, and give them this thing to get the proper release. So there is one. I don't think I have the answer, but there are a few things I know we have to do, and step by step we'll hopefully get there. Yeah.